Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'll be reviewing for you
Toree Saturn for the Nintendo Switch. The Switch 1, not the Switch 2. Because it's so retro, it can't even have cutting-edge graphics. Paul? That is your cue to transition to the cover art. Do we really need more retro games out there, guys? I'm out of here.
the developer behind this game, a.k.a, is quite known for making retro-styled games, usually based on games around the Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, and Nintendo 64 era, while putting a modern twist on them. Toree, in particular, has had its own series. There have been 3 other Toree games, all of which are also on the Switch, but I've only reviewed 2 of them, because for some reason, when I tried playing Toree Panic Pack, the controls just didn't do it for me. And I was a bit worried going into this that I would have the same problem. But thankfully, the eShop itself said Toree controls better than ever, and Nintendo Life made a video saying that none other than Alex Olney was in the special thanks. So I said, well, you know what? Maybe this is my sign that I should finally get back into the Toree series. So I had a gift card, it was only $5, and I said, that's a steal, let's go for it. So just in case you haven't watched my review of the other Toree games, the gist is that these are speed-based 3D platformers with graphics that are reminiscent of the Dreamcast and the Saturn. But this time, you have 2 additional moves. In the original games, all you could do is run and double jump, and you'd have to use dash panels and green stars to maximize the most of your speed. Those dash panels are still there, and there are also stars that make you jump into the air, and more dash panels, but this time you have 2 additional moves to have even more speed and momentum. The first is quite literally a drop dash. You slam into the ground, but then you go zooming forward, which I imagine was inspired by the drop dash in the Sonic series. And you also have a homing attack that automatically makes you zip toward dash stars and leap stars, for lack of a better word. They don't really give a name for a lot of the things in this universe. And so the goal is that obviously you want to get to the end of the level, but you're incentivized to do it as fast as possible by chaining together all these ridiculous combos. At first, I wasn't sure I was going to like this game, because the controls took some getting used to, and sometimes there was some input lag on when I was about to activate the homing attack. But I told myself I was just going to keep getting better at it, and eventually I got to the point where I was able to get an A rank or higher on every stage. So I do hope that if you like momentum-based 3D platformers, especially if you really like the Sonic Adventure series, which I imagine was the main inspiration for this, you will eventually have a blast once you get used to the controls. You can actually choose to invert the camera or not, you can change its sensitivity, you can technically change how loud the music is compared to how loud the sound effects were, but that didn't always work well for me, as I wasn't a huge fan of the audio in this game in general. The sound effect used for going on a speed panel literally sounds like the static you hear on an old record player. And the music, while I respect the composers because they have their own YouTube channels and they respond to all the comments, I can't say the music style was for me. It was a bit too rockish, and when I tried to listen to samples on YouTube to see what I could do if this made my best games of 2025 list, it honestly gave me both a headache and chest pain, probably because the bass boost was so loud, or my music was just too loud. I don't know, but I ended up muting my Switch after a while, and that definitely helped me concentrate a bit more. In addition to the main levels, you also have a hub world that you can, quote, explore. I say that in loose terms because it is a very small area, about as small as Link's house in Ocarina of Time, or like a tiny little shed. But there's a lot packed into that tiny little hub. There's a skateboard arena that you can access where you essentially play Tony Hawk, but with Toree's moveset, and you can even do tricks to earn points with or without a timer. There's not really a point to any of this, but I am very glad that it's there. There's an arcade machine that you can use to access the game's soundtrack player, delete save files, as well as play 3 unlockable mini-games. Now, 2 of the characters in the hub, which are returning from past a.k.a. games, will give you hints on where to find 2 of the mini games, but you'll have to figure out where the third one is for yourself. Either that or I just did not notice where the hint was. Thankfully, I found it by complete accident, so hopefully if you are the observant type, you shouldn't have a problem spotting the third minigame. Unfortunately, the minigames themselves are pretty bad. For one, they have an abysmally long loading screen. For two, if you try to exit out of them manually, a lot of times the game would crash on me. And third, they're not really that great. They seem to be parodies of older games on, once again, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, and Saturn, but they're very finicky in terms of the controls and in terms of not even knowing what I was doing in the second game. And in the third game, just trying to get used to it because it was a parody of another popular game, which I won't spoil, but I hadn't played the game that it was parodying, so I didn't quite get the controls. Thankfully, you do get new costumes for doing this, as well as just about anything you can think of. Beat all the levels, costume. Get all the ice cream cones in a levels, costume. A rank in all of them, you get the picture by now. And thankfully, the costumes don't cost anything, so you can just go to the costume shop in the hub world and pick them up. The stars that you see in each level have also seen a bit of an upgrade, as you're no longer given a tracker of how many there are in a level, but you simply get a tracker of how many you've picked up altogether. So hypothetically, you could just keep replaying the levels over and over again and just pick up the stars in any order you want, miss a couple, doesn't matter. As long as you get 2,500 stars, you'll get a special reward. There's another special reward that you can get for getting 11 A ranks, which I believe is every level except for a secret level that you can unlock by beating all of the main levels. And believe me, that secret level is worth unlocking. It is a real nostalgia treat if you know Siactro's games. Overall, I had a blast with Toree Saturn. I loved the trick system, I loved being able to perfect my time and try to get A rank or higher on every stage. I even got an S ranking on some of them, which I didn't even know was possible until I got to, I think it was the final level, where I was like, oh, you can actually do better than A? From what I heard in Nintendo Life's video, there's a way to do the levels even better than how I'm doing, by ground pounding onto the launch stars and the jump up superstar. Ooh, that's a good pun. But I am not skilled enough to pull that off, so I'm happy enough that I did as good as I did. I'm glad that there's a little bit of exploration to incentivize the whole 3D nature. There are some great callbacks to the developers' previous games, and I think if you love going fast in platformer levels, you're going to absolutely have a blast. Just be warned that the music isn't that great, and even if you turn off the sound effects all the way, there's still a little bit of lingering sound effects there. If you turn off the music and the sound effects all the way, for some odd reason the sound effects will still play. So I think you're probably better off muting the Switch unless you really like the genre of music that the composers go for. There's also some performance hitches, like the minigames taking really long to load, and sometimes the game crashing when you're trying to exit out of them. But if you can look past those little nitpicks, the overall main game is a lot of fun. And it's only $5. And since it's on the Switch 1, you can pick it up either there or on the Switch 2 eShop. But there is no physical at the moment. Then again, do you really need one if you're only charged $5 for it? I think it's a steal of a value. And yes, I know the previous Toree games were only like $1 each, but I think considering how much more stuff there is in this one and how advanced the trick system is, I think the bump in price was justified. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'd love to start up a conversation, especially because I don't know too many other people that like the Toree games, so I'd love to know if you like them or games that are similar. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!